You see the open, you hear the music, you know it's football season is back in central Massachusetts, and it's right back here in the city of Leominster. We welcome you to Leominster's Coach's Corner here on Leominster TV. Alongside Leominster High School head coach Dave Palazzi, I am Todd Robbins, welcoming you back to the 2017 football season as we get set for week one of action, where Leominster will play host to Marlborough in their first of 5 straight home games for the 2017 season. We'll talk more on that in a minute. Coach, welcome back. Another year of football. Got to be excited to hit the ground running.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really been a fast year, believe it or not. We're excited. Started really early this year, the 18th of August. We've been going at it, and all the other teams come a week later. Then school starts, and kids are really getting used to going to school and practicing. It's been really, actually, it's been a nice fall for these guys to practice it. We haven't had too many hot days, so we're really excited to have a scrimmage tomorrow and get into game week next week.
It's been the feel of football in the air with those colder temperatures, and certainly it wouldn't have been an off-season if the MIAA didn't go to work remodeling Central Massachusetts and the statewide football system once again, and this year no different. So we'll take a look. We put together this little graphic to kind of walk you through what the changes have been since the playoff system went into effect in 2013. In 2013, Central Mass Division II looked like this. It looked the same in 2014 as well. Leominster was joined by Marlborough, Westboro, North Middlesex, Shrewsbury, St. John's, Algonquin, Wachusett, Fitchburg, and Neshoba. After those 2 years, the first 2 years of this program, Shepherd Hill was placed into Division II Central Mass, increasing that number to 11 teams. Then a major cosmetic remodel last year led to Division II getting 5 teams removed out of it. And then there were just the 6 last year: St. John's, Leominster, Shrewsbury, Algonquin, Wachusett, Shepherd Hill, as you see there. But the MIA was not done yet. They shifted once again, and now Division II is no longer in Central Massachusetts. Only an Eastern Mass division joining Division I. Therefore, Division III Central Mass now looks like this. The 6 teams we mentioned moments ago joined by Doherty this year. Coach, does it feel any different than the old Division I? I mean, they could call it whatever they want. First it was we didn't want to call things Divisions 1 through 8 because that makes people in Division 8 feel bad about themselves. So then we tried A and 1 and A and so on down the line, and now we're back at 1 to 8. But because of numbers, Eastern Mass holds the top 2 divisions once again. Divisions 3 through 8 are in the rest of the state.
Right. So they put us in 3 because they go strictly by numbers, and you know, the old, the Brocktons and the Everetts, the Zavarians and BC High School, the big schools like that are Division I teams. And, you know, we dropped down to Division II, probably more so because of the numbers that we have within our division. So I guess, to compete on a state level when it gets to the playoffs and to have fairness, they put us into Division III with the numbers. And, you know, it is what it is. I mean, we're playing the same teams. I mean, so that's really what we have before us, and they do what we do, and we just go out and play football.
The model hasn't changed in that there will be 8 regular season weeks this year, and then the same system: 12 points for a win over a higher division team, 10 points for the same division or lower, and then the bonus point system that kicks in underneath hasn't changed either. Central Mass redid their schedule to accommodate, so there will be 7 teams in the league, 6 games in the division for Leominster this year, 2 outside of the division. When you were going in this offseason and putting your schedule together, did missing last year's playoffs by fractions of points, did that play into your mind at all? Were you thinking, geez, I've got to find the right combination of games here, because mathematically, more so maybe than just winning all of my games, what games I choose to win or what games I'm able to win makes a difference?
Yeah, I mean, we thought about it, and I know it's a lot of people don't understand when you're in an 8-game schedule. I mean, you need to get enough points and win games, and you know, we tried to go in. I talked to our athletic director, Lorene Cipolla, and we asked for a Central Mass schedule this year because, you know, I mean, what's the point if you're good enough to make the playoffs? You're going to play the whole state when you finally get there. So, you know, we tried to put a Central Mass schedule together, and they didn't have a game for us week 2. So we had to go out and try to find a game, and that's where we ended up with Everett. You know, I know people love when we play teams like that, the Brocktons, the Everett, and, you know, I personally love it. It's hard sometimes when you're in a league that where everybody isn't playing everybody, and we're playing everybody in our league, and the only other team that's doing that is St. John's, and you know, they have Catholic Memorial, Springfield Central, so they have a real tough schedule, and then our schedule. So, you know, it's give and take. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to win your league, and you have to beat the teams in your league, and I think that supersedes everything, and that's really how we look at it. So we're just going to take it one game at a time. I mean, we have a tough Marlborough game, but the scheduling, and it's really difficult with the playoff system, and I just want to see equity at some point where everybody's playing each other the same amount of times or the same games. But maybe in the distant future they'll try to really work that to get some equitability with only 8 weeks. And it's back to our discussion. Just have every team make it.
Yep.
Play 7 weeks, have every team make it, and then we're not having this discussion. You're in the playoffs. You don't have to worry about scheduling and all of that happy business that we talk about. You know what I'm saying?
Each and every year. And the unfortunate part about it, I think when you look at, trying to figure out, I hear people talk about their league schedule, I hear people talk about division schedule. There's some real confusion there because in every other sport, you are playing within your league. So obviously in this part of the state, it's the Midland Wachusett Conference, the Midwatch as most of us know it. But then you look at other parts of the state and they're playing in their own leagues and they want to talk about league schedules. But yet in reality, your league doesn't matter. It's those 7 teams that are in your division, which don't necessarily have anything to do with your league.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're Division III Central Mass. That's who we play. We play each other in Division III. If we go to the playoffs, we play Division III from Western Mass, Division III from Central Mass, from Eastern Mass and whatever. And if you make it to Gillette, you're the Division III, champion. You play for a title, whoever makes it. So we're Division III, and that's really where we're at. So, that's what we're going to do.
And away we will go with this season. And as we looked at the schedule, Coach, you mentioned Everett. You mentioned how much the community loves when you take on teams like that. Those are those big name games. But as you were mentioning, it's kind of a give and take. You've got to decide, okay, well, I couldn't fill my schedule in this part of the state. I've got to go find a challenge somewhere. You want to balance, obviously, the marquee name versus a winnable game that mathematically works, but still challenge your football team. And obviously, Everett has always presented a great challenge.
It's not that we couldn't fill our schedule. We asked for a schedule, and the committee didn't give us a game. I mean, originally we had BC High, and we had said that we wanted a Central Mass schedule. We could have had Springfield Central, but we didn't want to play them because we had already told BC High we were going to get a Central Mass schedule. Then they did the schedule, and they left us with a blank game. Week 2, which St. John's picked up Springfield Central after we called them and said we didn't want to say no to BC High and turn around and play Springfield Central, and then they would say, well, you told us we wanted a Central Mass schedule. So after that, we got our schedule, and we didn't have a game for week 2. So everybody was booked up, and Everett was open, and we put them in the slot. I mean, that's just the way it works, and we'll play our schedule. But again, it comes down to the league. You have to win your games, but so be it. I think everybody's excited. We're playing Everett. They're a tremendous team, but they're week 2. I mean, we have Marlboro week 1, who were in the finals of the Super Bowl in their division. So, and then we have St. John's week 3, and so on and so forth.
The gauntlet begins. And of course, all of those games we mentioned thus far and we'll continue to talk about in a moment are all at home, Coach, which there are some benefits certainly to playing 5 straight home games to open the year. But ever the contrarian, I'm looking at the future, and if they were to swap the schedule for next year, which it does tend to be schedules on a 2-year cycle, that would mean 5 road games next year out of 8, and that's an unfortunate back end of the benefit you get in 2017.
Well, we tried to get 8 home games, but they didn't let us do that. But I mean, since I've been here in 2011, we've had 3 away games the first 3 games, almost 3 or 4 out of the 5 years, and the people in the city want to go to the games. They want to go to the games in September when it's nice, and Doyle Field is beautiful. But early September games, we're always traveling. We're going to other cities, and we said if they're not going to fill our schedule, we at least want home games. And just St. John's, we were down there last year. Marlboro, we played them in the playoffs a few years ago. Everett, we were down there last time. And I believe Doherty, we were away as well. So it just worked out. And Shrewsbury, the same thing. We played them up there. So that's where the schedule fell. But next year we'll schedule again and see what happens.
And hopefully you can become the benefit of that as well. Let's take a look at the schedule for 2017 that we were just talking about. Those 5 straight home games: Marlboro, Everett, St. John's, Shrewsbury, and Doherty will drop the curtain on Doyle Field on the first weekend in October, and then through the rest of the month of October, the Blue Devils will be on the road at Wachusett, at Shepherd Hill, and then at Algonquin, and then target that date, November the 3rd, the goal to be mathematically qualified for the beginning of that playoffs, which would start that week of the 3rd of November. And Coach, obviously, you mentioned the gauntlet that you have coming out of the chute with those very difficult games, front-loaded there with Marlborough, a playoff, and just barely not a championship team last year. Everett, obviously. St. John's is always a difficult game. Shrewsbury was your mathematical foil last year. Those first 4 games are incredibly difficult challenges to start with.
Yeah, and Doherty, I mean, they're athletes last
speed.
year. I mean, we just snuck that game out, and then you go to Wachusett. I mean, then then we have Algonquin and our whole schedule, Shepherd Hill. So, it's one game at a time, and most of the other teams are in the same boat. I mean, Central Mass is still Central Mass football. I mean, it's tough football. We're at the top of all the divisions, and we're the biggest schools, and that's just the way it is. It's a very competitive league. Anybody can win it. It comes down to week-to-week matchups, how you match up with teams. I think it's weird how it went last year. We did a job on Algonquin, and then they turn around and they do a job on Wachusett, but then Wachusett does a job on us. So each and every week, and anything can happen. So, we're excited for the season. I'm glad football season's around. I love my team this year. I love how hard they're working, and we're excited to open up next Friday night.
We've gotten through the administrative particulars. Let's talk about your team. What you've spent training camp with. Obviously, it started with the off-season program. I know you were working very hard with them to try to get them into the off-season workout program, weight training programs, and obviously the school's got a fantastic weight room to try to take advantage of and get those kids in there. Talk about the program transitioning through obviously the spring and then on into the start of this fall camp.
Well, we have a lot of kids doing different sports, and I'm a big proponent of 3-sport athletes, and I'd rather have them playing a sport than lifting weights. And we have a lot of, Leominster's great, and a lot of what the training programs that they have for a lot of these kids. There's many number of them, and a lot of the kids go work out on their own, but we do have our weight room for the younger kids to come in there and work out. And I was happy to see a lot of the kids just wanted to get better, get stronger. We tested them in January, and we really improved. I think a lot of our linemen get in really good shape, more so than last year. And they saw what it takes to be out there going both ways and things. So I'm pretty impressed about that, and I look forward to see how that pays off.
You just indicated to me a few moments ago that it seems like that you like the collection of the team. The attitude is so important at this stage, and obviously the more you can galvanize that group before you get into the the real meat of the schedule and you guys start facing adversity, the better off you are. Talk to me about the development of that attitude through the start of camp.
Well, we just we voted for captains yesterday, and we had 12 guys get 7 or more votes. So that right there says a lot, that they have a lot of respect for each other. They think well of each other, and they think different guys can lead the team, and it was really good to see. And just the attitude of the team. And we've had in the past, we've had a lot of kids go to Division I college, and Noah last year, and Dandini going, and Tanner, and the Jacksons the year before. So we really don't have that attention this year. So I think that has a lot to do with it in a positive way, not in a negative way beforehand. But when you have that surrounding you, everybody strives. It's kind of like everybody's on the same playing field. It's a high school football team, and we have a lot of humility because there's a lot of young kids that want to prove themselves. There's a lot of kids that played sparingly last year that want to prove themselves. And we saw what happened last year. We didn't make the playoffs for the first time since 2011, and I think the kids really looked at that as a disappointment, as did I. And they want to do a little better for themselves, and they're really playing into the team environment and really living it, not just talking about it.
Talked a little bit about some of those students that have gone on to elsewhere. I want to take a quick aside here. Obviously, the video that's gone viral over the last day or so has been Neil O'Connor with the toss pass. Play looked very familiar, Coach. I'm pretty confident that's in your playbook somewhere. I was like, we've seen that once or twice before.
Yeah, they didn't fake the quick screen, fake the dive, and throw it out. They just threw it out to him. So I joke about that, but. It's funny, I told their coach that recruited him, I said, he's going to end up at receiver, and I said, if you have two planes and an offensive plane and a defensive plane and your whole offense goes down and you need a quarterback, this is when Neil was playing defense. I said, Neil will jump in at quarterback and win the game for you. I mean, he'll do whatever it takes. And they're beginning to find that out, I think, getting him more involved in the offense. But I did see that play. It was great to see. I love it.
It's fun seeing that play from the University of New Hampshire over the last day or so. Coach, let's talk about some of the returning faces into this season. Obviously, names that we started to call toward the tail end of last year. Pat Gallagher at quarterback, Adam Couch at the running back spot, Connor Marchand playing some running back, fullback, doing some blocking as well. Talk to me about their development. Obviously, those are the faces and the names that we know going into the start of this year.
Yeah, I mean, as well as some of our linemen, I mean, but our backfield, predominantly our quarterback, I mean, just saying the plays, being in the huddle, telling people what to do. I mean, that's enormous. I mean, having a returning quarterback is huge. I mean, any coach will tell you that because they kind of know the system. But he's still learning as well, and he's right along with all his teammates, and as well as Connor Marchand and Adam played a lot, backing up Dandini and Kalina. Kalina was hurt a lot last year, so Adam got a lot of playing time. But for the most part, our offensive line coming around. I mean, it's a good group of kids. It's going to be a little different this year. With the respects is we don't have any returning receivers back, so we get some guys vying for that spot. But it's going to be exciting.
It's always good to have a quarterback that can pass the ball, but it does become a problem if there's nobody on the other end to catch the ball. And that was the situation you ran into last year, moving Noah Gray away from quarterback, putting him out at receiver, and finding somebody else that can get the ball to a playmaker. If you run into that situation again this year, Gallagher obviously is a passer. Haven't seen him line up at receiver, so I don't know if that's one of your options. If you go down that road, where do you think you might be able to find it? Is it going to be one of those cases where we're not going to have anybody with 5, 6, and 7 catches? It's going to be 1, 2 here, 1, 2 here, and you're going to have to work as a group.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it may be, we got Jack Young at one of the receivers and Gabe Elias at the other. We got Brian Rodriguez that can come in there at the H or the Julian Edelman spot that won't be run this year, but it's going pretty well. So those kids work hard. I mean, Jack Young, he's a backup quarterback. He ran all the scout team last year. He played all positions, and he really worked hard, and that's what it's all about, and he's looking forward to his opportunity, and same with Gabe Elias.
So we look at some of the new faces that we have this year. Obviously, there are some new faces on the offensive line, but there are some returners there as well. Defense going to have a lot of new names associated with it. Some of these players we talked about playing both ways as well, and then obviously you started talking a little bit about the wide receivers as well. As you look at that defense, who are going to be those names that we're going to start to familiarize ourselves with?
Well, I mean, we have, Zach Halliday back, Lucas Lashua, Dom Vargas, Christian Nunez, Donovan Noguera, defensive line with Dan Morey, kind of 6 guys rotating in there on offense and defense. And then, we have Zach Del Judas and Connor Marchand returning at linebackers, Miles Bowers at linebacker, and then Jack Philbin and Kyle Philbin, two young freshmen that have stepped up for us. That you'll see, and then Mikey Viola at corner will return, and then we get some newer guys at the other positions, Gabe Elias, Flip Garcia, and we'll have Brian Rod back there at safety. So we have guys that have got some time last year, but not extensive time, mixed in with some returning starters. So we'll see how it pans out.
Roster got a little smaller numerically, not as many numbers to pick from, and that seemingly is happening all across the sport of football. Is just the number of players out there aren't there at this point in time. So you're seeing some younger contributions. The importance, obviously, of a youth feeder program, which Leominster is very fortunate to have a very strong set of feeder programs that feed up there. What's been the kind of the developmental kind of scale for these players that are coming in? Obviously, they're very familiar with some of the schemes. They've grown up watching this program. How are they coming into this team? Are they able to hit the ground running?
Yeah, I mean, we got 2 running backs that are young. Both Sean Dixon's a freshman, and Justice Reynolds plays for us last year. He's a sophomore, so they'll be backing up Adam, and we got Elijah Martinez at fullback and Louis Colon. I mean, we got a lot of running backs, and the younger guys. You're right, with the 3 freshmen that we have just contributing. I mean, they're just in there. They want to play football, so they just got their eyes wide open and they're listening to the schemes and what needs to be done. So I mean, it's been great. They've been great, and just the kids have taken them in with open arms, and it's been great.
as you look across your team right now, and obviously you'll get a better idea with your second scrimmage that's on deck here, but as you look across your team right now, is there a hole right now that you're a little bit concerned about, that you're trying to find maybe a decision between a couple of players? Is there a spot there that you're right now maybe like, we may have to kind of patchwork that for the first couple of weeks?
I think just overall our depth. Our depth at quarterback is not there. Our depth at any position is really not there. As far as experience and being on varsity, and these kids are taking pride. These younger kids, these sophomores, and some of these juniors that haven't played. I told them today. I said we're going to be as good as our second and third team guys in our special teams. They need to get some work out there, and it's a total team effort. We're not top heavy when it comes to just one guy doing it. I think we got a full team that's going to be out there playing hard-nosed football, and they're going to get tired. There's no question about it, especially early on in September.
So as you look at this team developmentally, comparing them to maybe some of the other teams you've had coming out of camp over the last couple of years, is there a team you could closely equate them to a little bit? Where do you see them in their developmental process going into this week one?
Probably the first year, my 2011 year, where we didn't really know what to expect. These guys they didn't know what to expect themselves. There's not a lot of I'll say superstars on the team, meaning that we don't have any returning all-stars coming from Telegram and Gazette all-stars or league all-stars. We don't have any of those guys returning. So, everybody's just looking around, asking each other, how are we going to be? And, everybody's kind of afraid of, they don't want to be bad, but we don't know if we're going to be good. So I think that when I see that and everybody just wants to run from drill to drill and not be the one lagging behind, I like that. And I think that's what we have. And, I'll take that any day. And I think it's going to be good for our team and good for our coaches and program. And we're going to go out there and give it an honest effort.
Week one of action is on deck here. And let's take a look at the other games that are going on around the league in this week one of action, or around the region for this week one of the Coach's Corner. 4 games on tap that we'll be keeping an eye on throughout the night. Fitchburg is traveling over to St. Bernard's for the first time, kind of rekindling that crosstown rivalry. Shepherd Hill on the road at Shrewsbury. St. John's is at Catholic Memorial from Eastern Mass, opening up their season. And then the week 2 opponent of the Blue Devils, that's Everett, playing host to Zavarian on Saturday. Coach, everybody coming out of the chute, getting some big testers in week 1.
Yeah, absolutely. And week one's always a test. I mean, everybody likes to play week 1. Nobody really knows what you're going to do, and you really got to know your assignments and just try to battle through and try to get a victory.
You get sick of hitting other people that are on your team. You'd actually like to hit somebody maybe that you're not so closely associated with as you turn that attention, and as we turn our attention toward this week 1 game with Marlboro. How much is a week 1 game about yourself versus whether it is about scheming against the other team, which maybe you're going to do down the road in weeks 2, 3, and on?
Well, it is a lot about yourself and the mistakes that you try to avoid, turnovers and giving up touchdowns and things like that on big plays and special teams. But, obviously with Marlboro running their veer offense, and a lot of assignments go into stopping that. And, it's a tough gig to play this team out of the chute, and really, there's a lot of assignments. People need to know keys. So, you're right. I mean, it's that first week. It is about staying within yourself and not getting too hyped up, and just focus on what you need to do.
Marlboro's an interesting team to catch in week 1. They're a team that also has been decimated largely by graduation, so they're trying to put a lot of new faces into and rely on them to kind of move their scheme forward. But it's also a program that has been very scheme heavy. They have been very much an option-based offense and always been very much a 3-5 pound, hard-nosed defense. And those two things are probably one thing you can guarantee year in and year out when you're looking at the Marlboro Panthers. Let's talk first about Coach Mahoney's offense with this veer option. I know it's something that's concerning you guys. I know it's something you spent some special time focusing on over the last few weeks. What is it about the veer that when you're trying to get a defense prepared and coached up against it that, of course, is concerning?
Well, I mean, they're running down the line and putting the ball in the fullback's stomach, and they're riding him into the line, and then the quarterback pulls it out, and he follows a guy up into the hole, or he pitches it, or he rolls around. So, if you don't know who has the guy that's getting the ball on the pitch, or you don't have the guy that's getting the ball, the fullback or the quarterback, and I got him, you got him, nobody's got him type deal, all of a sudden the ball's in the end zone. So, and there's a lot of different blocking schemes and double teams that guys, when you get in a game, you really need to know how to defend those things. So, you can't really go all out in practice. You do, but you can't simulate a game because, you're playing against each other. So that's going to be a tough challenge for our defense and really just trying to maintain this offense. And, they may have lost a lot of guys, but anybody will say, I mean, a team's only as good as your juniors. I mean, the championship teams, really carried by juniors. You see a lot of teams, winning back-to-back titles because they have a lot of good juniors and things like that. So, they're going to be tough.
No question about that. And as you talk a little bit about kind of that veer option and making sure that you know who's got the ball or who's getting the ball as you're working your way forward, are there little things that your defensive players are able to do to recognize that? Because sometimes, obviously, sitting where we do up at press row, looking down on it, it looks like an organized car wreck out there. The ball is flipped somewhere inside. It's hard for us to follow it from the high side. When you're down that close to the action, you're inside of that pack. How do you follow that ball? How are you able to see where that ball is moving?
Well, they're also doing a lot at the line stuff, and they're checking off, and they're looking at our defense, and they're saying, okay, where's the best place to run? And then they call a play there. So now you got to kind of try to adjust to that, and then assignments change. But you're right. You got to play to the whistle. You got to wrap up. You got to tackle the guy that you have. If you have the fullback and I have the quarterback, we both can't tackle a fullback because when he pulls the ball out, it's doom and gloom. So. You're right. I mean, it's just one of those things. It's the first week of football. I mean, it's tough to face, this team the first week.
I know you've been spending a lot of time focusing on the flip side of that, and that is, of course, attacking that 3-5 defense, 8 men in the box that they're going to line up against you, and of course that creates a lot of difficulty. It's going to plug a lot of holes. They show a lot of different blitzes in fronts, which causes some conundrums for your young offensive line. What are the things that you're trying to instill in your offense as you look into this week?
Just stay true to what we're coaching you. I mean, they're gonna get up there. They have 6 guys in the box and 2 guys on the outside coming off the edge, and you just got to block the guys in front of you. I mean, block the hole. And you're right, they're coming from all angles, but if you wall them off, they have 8 guys in there. You split that, and you could be off to the races. But you got to get to that point. You can't get hit in the backfield by 3 guys.
It's Marlborough and Leominster. It's week 1 of action. Coach, what's your key to victory?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. Just stay true to yourself and focus on really what we can control, and that's turnovers and penalties and special teams, and being sharp with those things in and out of the huddle, and really knowing what our assignments are doing.
Look forward to talking down on the field on Friday night. It's Leominster and Marlborough, week 1 of action. The K-Zone, WPKZ AM 1280 and 105.3 FM has your countdown to kickoff beginning at 6:30 on Friday night, September the 8th. Game out at Doyle Field. We recommend you get down there early and often. We're expecting a fantastic crowd, and we want you to be a part of that crowd on Friday night to open up this season down at Doyle Field and be a part of the Blue Devils action each and every week for the first 5 weeks of action down at Doyle Field as well. Leominster TV will be along with coverage as well. Replays available throughout the week and weekend at leominster.tv. Great job by Kate switching back in the studio. Bradley Bedard with us as well. Coach, thank you so much for this week 1 of action. Week 2 of the Coach's Corner comes your way on Leominster TV next week. For everyone here at Leominster TV, I am Todd Robbins saying thank you so very much for joining us, and we'll see you next time here on the Coach's Corner.